Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for July 7th, 2025. Well, hey everyone. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I would like everyone, obviously not everyone had a great weekend with that flash flood in Texas. I hope you all will join me in thoughts and prayers to all of those families that are suffering down there, the loss of so many young girls. Right now, I guess the death toll has moved up over 80, so please keep those folks in your thoughts. What a horrible thing to have happen, and when they're out enjoying the holiday weekend, kind of keep all those folks in mind. Let's take a look at what happened here overnight in the markets. If we take a look at Asian markets last night, we had a kind of a mixed bag. Australia was slightly lower, $13.70, down 0.16%. The Nikkei fell 223 points, or down a little over 0.5%. We had India was just ever so slightly positive, up 30 cents and essentially flat percentage-wise. Hong Kong down 28 points, or 0.12%. Shanghai squeaked out 81 cents, or 0.02%. And then we saw South Korea. South Korea was just slightly higher by $5.19, or 0.17%, trying to shake off the tariffs that are going to be going into effect, according to the president, on August 1. Anyone who has not made a deal, that is going to happen, and threatening an additional 10% tariffs on countries that align with the anti-American BRICS policies. If we take a look at European markets here this morning, European markets are in the green. We have the DAX up 146 points, or 0.62%, shaking off the tariffs as not a major worry for them, apparently. FTSE, we've got up $3.14, or 0.04%. By the way, the DAX is up 0.60%, and the CAC is up $9.83, or 0.11%. U.S. futures have been struggling here just a little bit, but they have been rallying all morning. As a matter of fact, if we look at a futures chart here, since the overnight lows, we have come up substantially here in the Dow futures. Right now, only down $21 this morning on Dow futures. S&P 500 futures down $16, and NASDAQ futures down $80 here this morning, so a little bit lower here today. What does that mean for everything else? Well, if we were to take a look at those bonds this morning, bonds are just a tiny little bit higher. We've got the 2-year bonds coming in at 3.87%, 10-year bonds coming in at 4.36%, and those 30-year bonds up slightly at 4.89%. Now, that is having a knock-on effect here in the dollar. Dollar just a little bit higher here this morning. As you can see right now, dollar futures up $21.15 an ounce. So we'll want to be keeping an eye on that. If we take a look at what's going on as a result in precious metals, well, we've got gold moving lower this morning, gapping down $25.30 an ounce, with the dollar strengthening, $3,317 an ounce. And if we take a look at silver here this morning, silver is also slightly lower, down at the moment almost 37 cents at 36.71 an ounce here this morning. A little bit more bullish in that chart than we see in gold at the moment. Now, copper has been showing some pretty good bullishness in at least the copper miners, but gapping a little bit lower here this morning, down 10 cents. So we'll want to be keeping an eye on copper. Take a look at platinum is lower by $3.10, and palladium is lower by $12.70, but bouncing off of the low and could be trying to find a little bit of buyer support in that area on palladium. How about we take a look at oil this morning? If we look at XLE, you can see just slightly higher, pulled back from the overnight lows, just a tiny little bit. Right now, we have oil futures up just 15 cents at 67.15. If we take a look at USO, you can see USO is trying to hold that upside trend, trying to stay positive in there. So keep an eye on that. Brent crude at the moment is higher at 68.81 a barrel, and natural gas is reversing, well, not reversing, after the reversal on Friday, gapping lower to a new low here in natural gas, coming in down 12 cents at the moment. So keep an eye on that. If we take a look at those cryptos, Bitcoin is just a little bit higher here. Now, it's interesting, the BITO is actually showing a little bit lower here. And guys, remember, I just show BITO just as a representation of what might be going on in here. Remember, we get this little downtrend in here, but I don't trade cryptos. I have zero desire to trade cryptos. I just cover it because that's what everyone is interested in nowadays. And right now, that's up $3.10 a coin here, or 0.29%. And Ether right now is up $26 a coin, or 1.03%. So keep an eye on that. Mostly green in those cryptos here this morning. Let's take a peek at these index charts. But before we do that, everyone, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Monday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Taking a look at these index charts here this morning, remember, we want to look at these charts for what they are and not for what we want them to be. And remember to shake off that bias here when we look at these charts. And just remember that markets really don't care what we think we know. We just need to be watching carefully for trends, support, resistance in these index charts for clues. Now, if we take a look at the diamonds here, just an absolutely amazing run to the upside. Essentially 11 straight days to the upside. Now, typically, one of my rules is 5 to 7 days in one direction, watch for a reversal. So I'm going to continue to say, be careful here to watch for a potential reversal. But at the same time, there's not a big move here yet that needs to happen to get us to an all-time high. Now, an all-time high close is just a little bit lower than that 451.55 here in the diamonds. But I think there's every reason to believe if those bulls decide to push, they could break right through, back through this resistance here in the chart and start stretching up toward that all-time high here in the diamonds. Although we are very extended in the short term, and we'll look at that here in just a bit. But if those bears were to have anything to say, first thing I would do is I'd be looking for a pullback, maybe to test the bottom side of that candle, which is a pretty big point move, but nothing critical here in the chart. And if we were to break below there, I think maybe back down here on this support in that chart would be the little platform support that we see right here in the diamonds. Now, if we take a look at our technicals here in the chart, we are very stretched away from our moving averages as buyers just continue to plow into the market. Not concerned at all about valuations, not concerned at all about the tariffs, which now are not July 9th, they're August 1st. But we'll want to be keeping a pretty close eye on that as all this volatility continues to unfold. So watch that closely. Now, if we jump over to the SPY, SPY has already made those new record highs and continues to move up. We are very extended in the short term in this chart as well. If we take a look at the SPY here, blue sky above, there's nothing up there for resistance at new record highs. But if those bears were to have anything to try and recover, bulls, then a push back up here, see if we can pop out of that recent high on Friday, see if we can push back through with that little tiny bit of bearishness showing up here this morning. Now, if the bears were to have anything to say, you can see if we can hold this area of support, we're probably in really good shape. But if we drop below there, there is a gap below now that could be filled. We'll want to watch that carefully. Beyond that point, maybe we would come into a little bit of support right in there. Just keeping in mind that in the short term, we are quite extended in the SPY. Doesn't mean we can't continue to extend, but we should be watching pretty carefully for that possibility of at least a rest or a little bit of pullback. Our QQQ this morning also just a little bit lower here on the day. Now, looking at the moving averages and things in here, we are also very extended and probably the most extended here in the QQQ, which is something to say because these extensions have been so amazing. But taking a look at the QQQ, trying to stretch on higher here, we'll want to be watching that carefully. If those bulls can push through, right back up here to retest that high of Friday, see if we can break through that close up there, and then of course all-time high would be just above that. If the bears were to have anything to say here today, breaking down below that Friday open here in the QQQ could send us back in here maybe to fill this gap, so keep an eye on that. Beyond that point, we're going to start looking at some areas maybe through here if we were to start to pull back. Just remember, those are fairly big point moves, so make sure you have a plan to protect yourself if the bears really get going. Now, the Russell's had one heck of a push here to the upside. Nice little stretch, breaking into this next area of resistance up in here, pushing on through. So if those bulls can find that inspiration to push on higher, well, I'm going to look right up into here. We break through this area, then I'm going to suggest right up into that area in IWM would likely be the next test. And beyond that, we're probably looking at the top side of that little platform consolidation that we would push up into. So watch carefully there on the Russell. Now, if the bears are to continue here this morning, you can see we've already dropped through this level. Maybe a test up in here where we're trying to get through today, but if those bears were to get going, maybe to push down, fill that gap here on IWM. Pushing beyond there, well, we've got some big point moves that could be possible. Just keeping in mind our upside trend is way out here. We could rest back into that trend. So watch that carefully here on the Russell. If we take a look at our VIX here this morning, our VIX, well, we have been showing no fear at all, but we haven't been really sinking here in the VIX. Still holding in there around 16 handles. If those bulls can continue to push, I'd start looking down here toward that 15 area, 15 and a half, or even lower here around 15 could be a possible test of support in there. If the bears were to have anything to say here in the market and push this back up, well, I would suggest retesting this resistance here in the chart that's held really well so far. And if we were to break through that, then start pushing back up into this next area up in those 18s here on the VIX. Watch carefully there. Now, when I was talking about overbought, let's look at our T20s, our T21-22 indicator. Remember, this is the 4-week new high, new low ratio. This is all the stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. At one point on Friday, before we had that little tiny fade back, we were at 100. That means that every stock in the S&P 500 we're making 4-week new highs. And you can see at the moment right now, we're at 99.52 at the close. That is extremely elevated. As a matter of fact, in all of my career, I have never seen the New York Stock Exchange at 100 in the T21-22. I've not ever seen that. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just didn't see it. So watch that carefully here in the market. We are extremely extended, and if those bears were to get going, I would look for the possibility that we could have some big point moves to the downside. And in the light of the new tariffs, that could be a situation to be closely paying attention to. Now, if those bears were to get going, you can see we've got a very big open space here to the downside. We really can't do a whole lot more as far, and it doesn't mean we can't push the index prices higher, but we are extremely elevated here in our T21-22 and should be watching for that possibility of a little pullback, at least a consolidation and rest here in the market. Now, there's other reasons for that as well. Let's take a look at T2108. First, T2108 having a great day on Friday, stretching up there, maybe starting to flatten up. We're back up here around that 70 area of the chart. Remember, anything up here in that 70 area starts getting really frothy. That's 70% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average. We're getting a little bit on that frothy side here in the market. If we push even higher here, somewhere between 70 and 80, it's pretty rare that we don't find a way to pull back in the market once we reach up into that area. So watch that carefully on T2108. T2107 also had a good day on Friday, really stretching to the upside. Percentage of stocks above the 200-day, stretching up to 45% in a big, strong move there on Friday, coming into that next area of resistance in the chart. Now, if we can break through there, if the bulls can continue to push, watch this area up here around 50%. That's a big area of price resistance in there, up around 50%. We'll want to be watching that pretty closely here in the market. If the bears were to have anything to say, though, we've got some good support areas here to be watching, so no particular worries there. Bulls are definitely in control. If we take a look at T2101, now this is one we had a big stretch here the last couple of trading days in the market. Big stretch, breaking that, and the breadth was really coming up strong in kind of a well, the way I would say it is an overly enthusiastic push to the upside, trying to get the Dow into a new breakout area or new record highs. Now, watching this closely, we want to kind of consider that we are sliding in. More and more companies are sliding into that blackout period here where they can't do anything to influence their stock prices. So watch that carefully here. If the retail wants to continue to push on higher, certainly every reason to believe that they will do that, but watch that carefully. We might start seeing that breadth come back, Or if those bears were to get going, we might see that breadth start coming up here on those bears. So watch carefully there from that extension here in the market. If we take a look at our economic calendar here for today, well, our economic calendar, we don't have much to worry about here today. In fact, today could be, if there was a good day to pull back or just rest a little bit in here in the market, it might be today. There's a good chance that a lot of folks will be extending their vacation here and won't be back today, so don't be surprised if we get kind of choppy, lethargic price action here in the market today. Notice we've only got a 3-month and 6-month bond auction to be thinking about in that economic calendar. Now, as we look forward into the week, you can see Tuesday is even pretty light. We've got an NFIB small business optimism report and bond auctions with a consumer credit report. We start picking up a little bit on Wednesday, mortgage applications, wholesale inventories, petroleum status, some bond auctions in here, and then we're going to get that FOMC minutes. So watch carefully for that. Probably our biggest opportunity for lots of volatility on Wednesday right there. And then if we look into Thursday, our normal jobless claims, petroleum status, bond auctions, Fed balance sheet. So really light week this week of data. And over here, Baker Hughes rig count, a Treasury statement on Friday. So extremely light. We might even see kind of light and choppy price action for the week with that kind of data on the calendar. Now, if we look at our earnings calendar here today, well, our earnings calendar, there isn't anything. We have nothing for notable earnings both this morning or this afternoon. And honestly, an extremely light week of reports. Now, Thursday we'll pick up just a little bit with some notables in there, kind of those pre-earnings things coming up. But remember, the big banks really don't start until about the 14th of the month. So we've got another week to go before we really start picking up on some of those big bank earnings reports. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. If you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel about as much as anything these days to help show that engagement with the video, so it shows the YouTube will show it to more folks. Thank you, everyone, for those who take the time to do that. I really appreciate it. And also for those of you that share these videos out on your social media feed, thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and I never in my wildest dreams thought we would have 30,000 people that would subscribe to this channel. So thank you very much. You guys humble me every day. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up in here. And remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very careful in this market, particularly with the potential that we could ease back here a little bit. I know it has been just a rush and a fear of missing out run to the upside, but you've got to start having temper that just a little bit with that possibility of a resting pullback could occur at any time. So make sure you have a plan to protect yourself if that were to occur. Now let's take a look at some stocks, and remember, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Do your own due diligence and be very careful. Let's take a look. CCJ. CCJ has been in an amazing upside run here to the up, showing lots and lots of strength. And if those bulls can continue to push off this area of price support. I see every reason to believe that they could push up in here. This has been so incredibly strong in that uranium sector. If you take a look at URA also very strong, holding some support in here, kind of slipping that trend a little bit, but watch that carefully. UUUU has been also very strong, and right now it's setting in a nice bullish breakout. We broke through this major resistance up here, little rest, a little pullback toward that trend, and I would look for that next opportunity to the upside there. Looking very, very good overall. If we take a look at some miners out there, some miners have been holding in really well, pulling back this morning with this little bit of bearishness. But what we've seen in the past is we can't pull back very far, and then we start getting that energy back to the upside. So watch this carefully here. Barrick Gold breaking back through this resistance here. If that rests back and holds in here, I would look for that next opportunity there in Barrick. And there's quite a few in that mining sector looking pretty good. Take a look at like FCX. Freeport looking very, very good here on the copper side. Broke through this major resistance here in the chart. Now, any kind of rest pullback that holds in there around that trend area, I'd be looking for that next opportunity there in Freeport. So keep an eye on some of those miners looking pretty decent out there. Take a look at Disney. My goodness, Disney, beautiful pattern here, continuing to show lots of strength. Now we've got little tiny bit of resistance here, as you can see. Those tops right in there. We'll want to be watching that on Disney, but this nice little rest and consolidation with a bullish move in the market, I could see that pushing right on through to the upside. I keep an eye on Disney. Very nice looking chart. Take a look at CME. I placed a price alert on here and we popped through, but we just haven't been able to get a lot of momentum in there. But I'd keep an eye on CME for that possibility. That could stretch on through to the upside. Gotta tell you, on the daily chart here, now I have a bias because I've been holding a position here in AT&T for a long time. I've got better than a 500% return on this, but right now, as you can see here, AT&T trying to put in a little higher low here on that. Now, if the market starts pulling back, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if the market starts pulling back, some of these defensive stocks, these strong dividend payers and things like that, might start kicking up here. So watch that carefully. If the bears get going, this might be helpful here to AT&T. And I also think you might want to keep an eye on Verizon. Verizon's been pushing up into this downtrend. You can see we had this little double bottom situation in here going on and trying to break back through this little downtrend. Nice little resting consolidation in there, a little bit of push to the upside could get that going to the upside, so keep an eye on that. Let's take a look at a few other places here in the market. You guys know I've been keeping an eye here on Starbucks, and I did nibble into a position on this. Popped through my alert and then just resting against this resistance. Keep an eye on that. Now, this has got, quite a bit of resistance up in here in price action. I'm not suggesting this is just going to take off to the upside, but I'd be watching that carefully. If that rests out here, look for that next opportunity. And I'm looking for this to be more of a longer term trade. We need to break this big downtrend here in the chart. So watch that carefully on Starbucks, might be coming around. Take a look at CRM, Salesforce, nice little resting consolidation in here, a little higher low could be coming into that trade. Watch for that next opportunity in CRM, maybe to push on through to the upside. When we take a look at stocks like GLW, still looking very, very good, trying to stretch on through, and as long as Apple continues this run to the upside, I would continue to look for GLW to move up because they basically supply all that glass for all their devices. Watch that carefully in here. That's looking really good for a potential upside. Some of the energy stocks might be trying to put in little higher lows. If you take a look at Devon's obviously got that potential that this could be a lower high. But what's interesting to me is we've pushed up, we broke through a little resistance, we're trying to hold in here. Watch for that opportunity if we get some of that oil moving back up here. Worth keeping an eye on anyway. I'm really liking the way Walmart could be setting up here. Now this has that potential that it could go either direction, up or down. You can see we've got 50-50 chance in a wedging pattern like this, up or down. But I've got to favor the upside because of the bullishness of the market and the fact that we made a higher low here. So watch that carefully. If the bulls can get going, I would look for that pop up through, at least up into this resistance, and then we'll see if we can break on through and continue to keep Walmart pushing on higher. Worth paying attention to, I think. You know, we have seen some of these insurance companies starting to pick up here. MetLife, nice little rising lows in here. It's very gradual, trying to get something going. You can see we broke through this downtrend and trying to hold in here. So I'd look for that next bullish opportunity to push on up in that chart. Now, we've also seen some interesting moves here in some of the drug makers. Take a look at Merck. Merck coming up out of this bottom, trying to raise up in here, broke this downtrend, little higher lows, little resting after that nice pop. If that can hold some support in here, I would look for that next opportunity in there for Merck to maybe move on higher. J&J had a similar type situation, moving up off of that low. As you can see, stretching up through. Might have to rest against this resistance a little bit longer, but keep an eye on some of those drug makers. They're trying to come back around and get something going worth paying attention to, and anything that comes up out of the bottom can have those really long-term upside effects to be watching. I think that's worth keeping a pretty close eye on. Take a look at Gap Stores. Gap Stores trying to break a little bit higher, but I gotta tell you, the ones that have been really impressive are these discount sellers in here. Dollar General, it's been in quite a choppy consolidation in here, looking good. Dollar Tree stretching on higher, looking really good. I would keep an eye on some of these old boring divvy payers here on that retail side, starting to come around just a little bit, and these discount sellers doing very, very well overall. So there's quite a few stocks for you to pay attention to, and there are a lot more out there, you know, particularly if we start looking into tech and things like that. Marvel's looking good. You gotta like the way Datadog performed here in a big gap up move. Any rest or pullback sets up an opportunity there. There's just stocks everywhere performing and looking like they may stretch on higher. So keep a close eye. There's more stocks than you can shake a stick at here for the upside. We do have that little bit of bearishness, and right now, as I close out this video, Dow futures are down 31 points and NASDAQ futures are down 100. So watch that carefully. Maybe we do get that little bit of rest here in the market on a relatively boring day when probably a lot of folks are not going to be paying much attention to the market. So with that, everyone, I want to wish you all the best. Have a great day. RWO folks, expecting a normal day. I'll see you all in the trading room soon. Remember, everyone, we still have that $7 trial. If anyone is interested in taking a look at RWO and what we do, you can spend a whole month asking me questions and testing me, see if I can help you with your trading. So with that, everyone, take care, be safe. See you right back here bright and early Tuesday morning. Wish you all the best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.